Aiy-yu-kwee, now Melita, and this is my channel, The Midnight Librarian. Today I will be doing the second video challenge for the VaLITines, and that is Bear's I'm Not Gonna Write You a Love Song. So like I said, this was the second video challenge for the VaLITines Readathon hosted by Kate over at Chaptercviii, and Bear from Brody had posted this second video challenge that is called I'm Not Gonna Write You a Love Song, and essentially I'm supposed to pick 5 of my favorite love songs and match them to books. And I'm doing something a little different. I am going to still pick 5 love songs that I actually really enjoy and pick books that remind me of those songs, or rather those songs remind me of these books. But I will also be doing another 5, and I'll tell you what those are about later. So this one was actually really interesting because it's hard. It was a bit hard for me to figure out which books to pick with these love songs and not pick romance books, mostly because I don't read a whole lot of romance. We haven't necessarily got along, so it was interesting and kind of difficult to pick, but I think I finally have it down, so let's get into it. I'm not going to be doing any lip syncing or embedding the music into this because 1, I don't know how, 2, I don't necessarily know the copyright issues with that, and I don't really want my video taken down, so I will say the main part of the lyrics that make me think of these books, and yeah, we'll go from there. So the first is Let Her Go by Passenger. Some of the chorus lyrics are: only miss the sun when it starts to snow, only know you love her when you let her go. For this one, I actually chose A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness. This one, oh my god. So this song makes me tend to tear up on occasion. It is kind of like more of the sadder songs, and this is a particularly sad book. Book follows a boy named Connor. He is having trouble in school. He's being bullied, but he's also dealing with a stressful home life. His mom is diagnosed with cancer and things aren't working out, and he keeps having these nightmares about letting his mom go and basically dropping down a hole. Essentially, I think that's what it is. It's been a while since I've actually read the book, and I actually watched the movie shortly before reading the book, but the movie is more clear in my mind than the book is. So it's hard to, and this is actually the movie cover on the book, which normally I know that a lot of people dislike, but I actually don't mind this. And basically a yew tree, or a tree comes to life and tells Connor these stories, and these stories aren't necessarily about anything bad or anything. There's morals to them, but they're not as clear. Mostly kind of just saying that life isn't fair and there's no good or bad guys. Sometimes things just happen, and basically it's helping Connor in terms of expressing his emotions, expressing his frustration, watching his mom die, and not being able to do anything about it, and having this fear of just letting her not suffer anymore. So really just, oh my goodness. Even after watching the movie and then reading the book, and knowing what was going to happen made me bawl. The next one is Lost on You by LP. The lyrics in this one that particularly struck a chord was: hold me like you never lost your patience. Tell me you love me more than you hate me. All the time, you're still mine. And this one actually reminded me of a recent read that I just finished, actually, and that is Recursion by Blake Crouch. And this is a science fiction about false memory syndrome. So people are getting these memories and living these lives, like having memories of these lives that they've lived, only to find out that that's not where they currently are, that never happened, but they have vivid memories of them. Because of this, mostly in Manhattan, people are freaking out. They don't know if it's contagious. CDC is trying to figure out what kind of virus this is, if it's a virus. So we're following 2 people in here. We're following Barry, who is a New York City cop, and we're also following Helen, who is like a scientist in terms scientists researching memory, and it's really complex and interesting. It's actually more complicated than just a virus. It's something that Ellen had actually something to do with, and now her and Barry have to figure out how to stop it from happening and from getting worse, really. And there was an unexpected love story in here that I wasn't expecting to really hit home. I knew there was like, it was tangible, but like the more I read, the more it became so I was rooting for them. And that's one thing that I found particularly with romance books, is that I have a hard time rooting for some of the characters because they're flawed in some way that I don't particularly like. There's some kind of trope that I don't agree with. And with this one, this is what I found, is that I enjoy a romance when it's not the focus of a book. So with this one, the main focus is trying to stop this false memory syndrome, FMS, from spreading. And the romance is kind of secondhand, but it does play a huge part later in the book. And it kind of like, there is a sense of time to it. And it's really just, I just ended up rooting for them in the end. And there's so much, it hurt so much. And yeah. Next is You're Beautiful by James Blunt. That stuck with me were, "You're beautiful, it's true. I saw your face in a crowded place. I don't know what to do because I'll never be with you." And for that, I chose The Lonely Hearts Hotel by Heather O'Neill. This one, it's been a while since I've read this one, so forgive me. From what I remember, this follows two orphans during the early 1900s in Canada. And they kind of grow up together, and they really lean on each other during their childhood and know that they're going to love each other for the rest of their lives. Unfortunately, their lives take a different turn and they end up getting separated. But they never stop thinking about each other. Travel a lot when they're teenagers because it's a way for the orphanage to make money. It's kind of just making these two perform together because boy in here is a piano prodigy and the girl can sing and entertain and dances and does comedy. And so the orphanage kind of peruses them throughout the city and able to get money for the orphanage. However, as teenagers, they're kicked out of the orphanage and put into contracts with other people. This is also during the Great Depression, so the whole time these two are just wondering if the other one survived, because there is a sense of foreboding. They don't know what's happening to each other. They don't know what's happening to the world or if they're able to survive. And there's this whole separation and longing for each other, and you question the whole time if they're ever going to get back together or be able to see each other in their life. The next one is She Will Be Loved by Maroon 5. The lyrics for this one: "I don't mind spending every day out on your corner in the pouring rain. Look for the girl with the broken smile. Ask her if she wants to stay a while. She will be loved." And for this, I chose Of Bees and Mist by Eric Session. I apologize for the pronunciation. But this, again, it's been a while since I've read this book, so if these don't make sense, I apologize. I was trying. But this one is more of a fantasy. It's more of magic realism. We follow Meridia, who grows up lonely and miserable. Age 16, she ends up falling in love with, and basically, so she and the boy Daniel end up getting married, and Meridia goes to live with his family and escape hers. Only problem is his family has secrets of their own, two sisters who were groomed to hate each other since birth, and then the mother who feels that Daniel can do better. So consistently throughout this book and Meridia and Daniel's marriage, Daniel's mother is consistently kind of undermining and trying to prove that Meridia does not belong in the family and doesn't love Daniel. And so there's a lot of manipulation, but there's this weird fantasy element to it as well. And Meridia ultimately just is like fighting against the mother the whole time. and there was such a struggle, but all she really wants is Daniel because she's just in love with Daniel. And my last one for this particular section is A Night Like This by LP. I enjoy LP. So with these lyrics, it's Ahu, stars are falling, are we falling too? Ahu, dawn is coming, what's this coming to? On a night like this, on a night like this, Ahu, the stars are falling, are we falling too? And for that, I'm choosing The Sound of Stars by Alicia Dow. This one follows two perspectives. We get 17-year-old Janelle Ellie Baker, who is Black, plus-sized, and pansexual. Basically, the world has been taken over by these aliens. She is in a compound in New York City where it's this apartment that her family has lived in. However, these aliens have kind of put other people into these apartment buildings in her building. And they don't know what's happening to them. Ultimately, these aliens are doing something, and all they know is that their art, music, television, movies, everything has been taken away from them because the aliens believe and know that will encourage them to revolt. Even books. So Ellie has kept a secret library of her books and is kind of being like an outlaw librarian of sorts in her apartment building. However, when an alien ends up finding her library, he decides to make a deal with her that she finds him music and he won't expose her for her library. So that's kind of all the synopsis says, and really ultimately this book ends up kind of following both this particular alien, I forget what his name is, M0RR1S, which kind of has the implication of Morris, and he enjoys human music. He really just like can't think of how or why they would, or like he understands why they banned it from the humans, but he's like enraptured in it. And when he finds out that Ellie has this library, he finds it as an opportunity to be able to enjoy more music. He is the highest ranking alien on Earth, but only because he's on Earth. He's a sort of like deemed lower by in terms of like their standards. We're following Morris as he comes to understand humankind and their creativity. And we also follow Ellie, who is trying to explain to Morris humanity but the problems that she goes through for being Black. This one I like it now that I know what it's about. When I originally read it, I was kind of disappointed because the synopsis made it seem more of like a save the world type of adventure book, when in reality it's more lean towards romance. So I feel like if I had known that ahead of time, I would have enjoyed it a bit more. However, this does really, I think this fits perfectly for this particular challenge just because it does heavily rely on music. Now these next set of songs they are still love songs, but their love songs are kind of creepy. And so I wanted to do something just kind of fun and choose books for these kind of creepery type of love songs. So the first being Every Breath You Take by The Police. Their lyrics are every breath you take, every move you make, every bond you break, every step you take, I'll be watching you. It goes on continuously about all these things you can do and they'll still be watching you. And I think even Sting had said like, this is not a love song. This is like, what? But for this, I chose The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones. Mostly because when I listen to the song, all I can think of is Elkhead Woman thinking this as she's hunting down the 4 Blackfeet men. So, yeah. Next is Animals by Maroon 5. Baby, I'm preying on you tonight. Hunt you down, eat you alive. Just like animals. Maybe you think you can hide. I can smell your scent for miles. Just like animals. And for this, I chose The Loneliest Girl in the Universe. This one follows Rami Silvers, who is on a ship spaceship bound for a new planet. She's the only surviving member. She was actually born on the spaceship, and her parents ended up dying in flight, and so did the other crew members. So she is corresponding with Earth, but it takes a while for the messages to go back and forth, particularly as she gets further and further away from Earth. So she's talking to, I believe, a therapist or someone who's basically keeping her in contact, making sure she's learning, because I believe she's only like 16 years old, something like that. But she gets news that another spaceship had been launched, and this was from like a couple of years ago. So she's excited to figure out like who's coming and what's this going to be about. So she found that this single passenger on board the spaceship is called Jay, and their communication via email takes months to transmit as opposed to years. But Rami finds herself quickly falling in love with him, but he seems to be more sinister than she expects, and there's a much more deadly plot than just helping her out to the next planet. So this one was actually fairly creepy. Is this a horror? I don't remember. I know it's science fiction, but I remember like when first reading this, it freaked me out because there is this claustrophobic feeling, mostly because I'm not a fan of space or the ocean. It's one of those things of just like being in a contained space that if anything went wrong could potentially kill you, because you're in an environment that outside of that contained space, you're done. Either be it no oxygen in space or no oxygen and no pressure in the ocean. So there's that fear, as well as turning something that you think is so comfortable to you, home, where you are, what you're familiar with, into a sort of fear of not being able to trust it and not being able to rely on it. That is fear. That is terrifying. So next is If I Was Invisible by Clay Aiken. If I was invisible, I could just watch you in your room. If I was invisible, I'd make you mine tonight. If hearts were unbreakable, I could just tell you where I stand. I would be the smartest man. If I was invisible, oh wait, I already am. This gave me such creeper vibes. And for that, I am choosing I'll Be Gone in the Dark by Michelle McNamara. This is about the Golden State Killer, previously known as the East Area Rapist. And there was another one down in Southern California. But he was in mid-central California to Southern California. Basically, he raped a bunch of women in one area and started killing in another. And none of the departments, police departments, were really communicating. There was also just like failure to connect. Also yeah. So Michelle McNamara, she was obsessed with trying to figure it out. She was like a amateur sleuth. She was trying to figure it out. She had written true crime things before, but this one in particular was her baby in terms of figuring it out, and she actually coined the term the Golden State Killer. Unfortunately, when writing this book, she ended up passing away before it was finished, and her assistants took over after her passing. Her assistants, as well as her husband, Patton Oswald, who made sure that the book got out, and particularly as when the book was published and they were out signing and promoting it, the Golden State Killer was caught. And actually his trial was this last year in 2020. So I had really kind of perfect timing on this. I had meant to read the book earlier, and when I did read it, as soon as I finished it, 2 days later, I was able to watch his trial, which was intense, and he pled guilty to all the murders. Unfortunately, because of the statute of limitation, the rapes were not able to, So yeah, that's what I think of when If I Was Invisible comes on. The next one is Living Room by Tegan and Sarah. My window looks into your bathroom, where I spend the evening watching you clean yourself. I wonder why they left this bathroom so unclean, so unlike me. I hope I never find out who broke your heart, and if I do, I do. For this, I chose Bear by Marian Engel. Just because I've actually never heard this Tegan and Sarah song. I did listen to it for this particular challenge, but when listening to it, I couldn't quite figure out what was going on, other than she was just kind of spying. They were just kind of spying on their neighbor, and just kind of, I don't know if they actually know their neighbor or not, but this reminded me of Lou as she kind of projects her feelings onto a bear, and realizes after being sent to this remote Canadian island to catalog books at this property that was given to the museum she works for, that her life isn't as fulfilling as she'd like it to be, and that she wants love, and she's kind of desperate for it to the point where she projects those feelings and those wants and needs onto a bear that was kind of a pet on the property of the owner. This next song is I Will Possess Your Heart by Death Cab for Cutie. The lyrics to the Death Cab for Cutie song are, how I wish you could see the potential of you and me. It's like a book elegantly bound in a language you just cannot read. So it's basically just talking about how their love interest just needs to spend more time with them, and to be able to understand that once they're together and that they get to know them, that they'll be fantastic for each other. But really, this just reminds me of Mostly Dead Things by Kristen Arnett, because the main character in this book, a female lesbian, is still grieving the loss of her father, who died by suicide several years beforehand. Her mother, she thinks it's losing her mind, when in all actuality her mom is just kind of expressing herself the way that she never could when her husband was alive. He very much had a narrow point of view of how women should act, what a woman should talk about, and so she was never able to express her creativity in a way. And now that after her husband has passed, she's grieving in her own way and expressing that through some very sexual art, through different art mediums, and the main character is not enjoying it because she kind of has the same viewpoint as her father of women shouldn't be doing this. This isn't appropriate. Her mom's just losing her mind. And really the whole book is about opening up and communicating with family members, to be able to better understand what's going on and how, because anytime someone tries to open up to, or tries to get this main character to open up, she immediately closes back down and goes to wherever and starts drinking. So that is my challenge. That is the I Will Not Write You a Love Song challenge for the VaLITines Readathon. What are some other love songs that you think are actually pretty creepy? Mostly because after listening out of context, a lot of them feel that way. But of course, like, some of them still have good beats. I still like Every Breath You Take by The Police. I understand it has its issues, but I just think it's funny. So yeah, let me know down in the comments below. Otherwise, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. If you enjoyed me, if you like my content, and you're new here, please be sure to subscribe and hit the little bell icon so you get notifications on when I upload new content. My Raise Awareness page, as it'll have sites and donation links for MMIW G2S, which is Missing Murdered Indigenous Women, Girls, and Two-Spirit People. There's quite a few sites for information and donations of groups and organizations throughout the United States and Canada, as well as Turnout, which is a LGBTQ nonprofit agency down in the Bay Area of California, so San Francisco area, that helps the LGBTQ community with food and COVID emergencies or COVID relief, as well as volunteer opportunities such as mentorships and Pride. So be sure to check those out down below. I will also have links to anyone that I mention in this video: Bear from F2 Brody, Kate from Chaptercviii, in the description down below as well. Otherwise, I hope that you are in the mental mindset to enjoy your reading, and I will see you again soon. Cheers!